Imagine being told that everything you thought you knew about relationships, desire, and power was only half the truth. What if there was a layer so deeply buried beneath centuries of social conditioning that most never even glimpse it? Now think, what if Socrates himself held the key to understanding a side of women that society, for thousands of years, has been too afraid to confront? This is not just another philosophical discussion. This is the kind of exploration that can shake the foundations of your worldview, and it begins with one of the most subversive questions ever asked. What do women truly desire, and what role does power play in their silence? In this video, we're diving into a realm that many fear, that some deny, and that a few brave souls dare to explore. But I promise you, by the end, you will see the world and yourself through a lens so clear it will be impossible to return to ignorance. And yes, the last revelation is the most powerful of all. So if you're ready to confront truths that most avoid, if you're prepared to unearth ancient wisdom hidden in plain sight, stay with me until the very end, because what you're about to hear may very well change your life. Before we go deeper, I invite you to subscribe, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments, because your insights and questions fuel conversations that truly matter. Share this video if it awakens something within you. We're only getting started, and trust me, the revelations ahead are not what you expect. Now, back to Socrates. Socrates never wrote a single book, yet his legacy defines the soul of Western philosophy. He walked the streets of Athens barefoot and bold, questioning politicians, poets, and common folk. But one subject, perhaps more dangerous than politics or theology, often remained elusive: the nature of women, desire, and the influence they wield, often invisibly. He was no stranger to the power women held. His own wife, Xanthippe, was described as sharp-tongued and assertive, a woman who challenged Socrates constantly. Many dismissed her as difficult. But think, why would a mind like Socrates, a seeker of truth, be with someone like her unless there was a lesson even in that? The truth is, Socrates saw something few dared to acknowledge: that beneath the surface of society, women have always possessed a power that transcends the visible, emotional, psychological, and social influence that reshapes the world without ever needing to declare it. But here's the paradox. In public, ancient Athenian women were expected to be silent, modest, and obedient. Yet in the private sphere, in family and intimacy, in the shaping of sons and warriors, they held a different kind of dominion: soft power, unspoken authority, the kind that doesn't demand attention but commands everything. What if that power, still very much alive today, operates quietly in modern life, influencing decisions, steering relationships, and shaping identities, all while remaining unacknowledged? Carl-Jung, centuries later, would echo something strikingly similar. He spoke of the anima, the unconscious feminine within the psyche of every man. It seduces, inspires, confuses, and completes him. But here's the twist. If a man is unaware of this anima, it doesn't disappear. It controls him from the shadows. Now ask yourself, what happens when this internal feminine force and the archetype collides with real women in our lives? Are we interacting with people or projections? Are we aware of their real influence, or dancing to strings we refuse to see? Most men never ask these questions, and that's precisely why they remain trapped in cycles of attraction, confusion, resentment, and longing. The philosopher Alain de Botton once said, "We fall in love not with those who are right for us, but with those who feel familiar. Familiar because we are searching for something lost, or never found, within ourselves." This is where Socrates becomes dangerous, because he invites us to examine what lies beneath. Not just facts, but motives. Not just appearances, but essence. When applied to the feminine, this means we begin to question what truly attracts us. What do we project? What do we avoid acknowledging? Now imagine a society where these questions are never asked, where men are taught to conquer, provide, and pursue, but never to understand the depth of feminine psychology. In such a world, women become symbols, desires, mysteries, often feared, rarely understood. And women, they learn, generation after generation, to navigate this blindness, to harness it, not through malice and but survival, The wisdom passed down is not always written, it's felt, shared between mothers and daughters, in whispers, in instincts, in resilience. Simone de Beauvoir once said, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman." This becoming, this transformation, happens within a structure that rewards silence and penalizes confrontation. But silence is not absence, it's strategy. Here lies the uncomfortable truth. Many women do not want this video discovered. Not because it exposes them, but because it exposes a dynamic that works in their favor, silently. The mystique, the confusion, the dance of pursuit. If that veil is lifted, the dynamic shifts, and power, when named, changes shape. But you might ask, is this manipulation? Or is it adaptation? Think of it as nature's mirror. In the same way animals adapt camouflage to survive, humans evolve roles. Not all strategies are spoken. Some are archetypal, some are mythic. And Socrates knew that myth was never just story. It was psychological truth. This video isn't about blaming or accusing. It's about awakening. Because if we want deeper relationships, real connection, and true understanding, we must stop treating women as puzzles to solve or ideals to chase, and start seeing them as complex beings navigating a world that doesn't always allow them to speak fully. And to do that, we must first look within ourselves. Socrates said, "Know thyself." But what if knowing yourself means understanding how much of what you think, feel, and want has been quietly shaped by the feminine you never saw coming? And what if I told you we're only scratching the surface? What makes this exploration so delicate and at the same time so powerful is that we are not dealing with facts alone. We are dealing with centuries of suppressed truths, buried instincts, and emotional undercurrents that rarely find words. And that's why men often feel something is off in relationships, but can't name it. It's not because women are hiding something. It's because we were never taught to see the invisible structure of emotional power. Socrates, in all his dialogues, was relentless in one thing: the pursuit of essence over illusion. He would never accept a convenient answer. He would dig until the foundations cracked and the truth emerged, naked and uncomfortable. If he were alive today, he wouldn't ask, "What do women want?" the way most men do. He'd ask, "What assumptions are you making about women that blind you from the truth?" This is the kind of inquiry that shakes your very core. It forces you to admit that many of the scripts we live by, dating, masculinity, success, are inherited, not chosen. They were given to us by media, culture, and confused role models. Scripts that praise the man who wins attention, dominates and performs, but say little about the man who listens, reflects, and sees beyond appearances. But what happens when you start to see? You realize that feminine power is not a trick. It's an energy, subtle, fluid, intuitive, often underestimated, yet profoundly influential. From the way a single look can alter a man's confidence to how silence can speak louder than 1,000 words, feminine power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and those whispers shape destinies. Psychologist Erich Neumann, a student of Jung, believed that the feminine psyche held the original archetype of transformation. He described it as the Great Mother, not a literal figure, but a symbol of life's chaos, mystery, nourishment, and danger. To confront this archetype meant confronting the parts of existence that terrify and fascinate us simultaneously: love, death, creation, abandonment. And most men are not prepared for this confrontation, because we were raised to believe in control, in logic, in directness. But the feminine isn't always direct. It's symbolic, emotional, layered, and that's not weakness, that's complexity. A complexity that holds the key to understanding not just women, but ourselves. So what do women truly want? Socrates would not have given a definitive answer. Instead, he would have kept asking until the question itself broke apart and something deeper emerged. Maybe women don't want a man who knows all the answers. Maybe they want a man who sees, who listens, who feels, who respects the dance of mystery and isn't afraid to enter it. But here's the challenge. Seeing requires risk. The risk of losing certainty. The risk of questioning your own desires. The risk of seeing how much of what we call attraction is shaped by childhood wounds, unmet needs, and social programming. Take the example of emotional availability. So many men feel confused when a connection that seemed deep suddenly turns distant. But what if you looked beyond your frustration and asked, was I truly available, or was I performing availability? Because women, especially those who have walked through emotional fires, can feel the difference. They may not explain it in words, but they know. They sense it. And when they pull away, it's not manipulation, it's preservation. In this light, the silence of women becomes not an absence, but a language of its own. In Plato's Symposium, Socrates recounts a conversation with Diotima, a woman, a priestess, a philosopher, who teaches him that love is not about possession, it's about becoming. Diotima tells him that love begins with physical attraction, but must rise through stages, to the beauty of the soul, of laws, of knowledge, and finally, to the beauty of the eternal. Let that sink in. True connection is a ladder, and most never climb it, because climbing means letting go of illusions, of shallow games, of needing to be validated by others. It means stepping into a sacred space where love is not control, not security, not performance, but transformation. And here's where the truth becomes almost unbearable for many. That transformation does not serve the ego, it dissolves it. And that's exactly what women, whether consciously or unconsciously, often catalyze in men. They reflect back the parts we hide, our tenderness, our fears, our hunger for meaning, not because they're trying to fix us, but because their presence, especially in its mature form, invites the collapse of false selves. And if a man resists this process, he doesn't just reject the woman, he rejects his own evolution. Now pause for a moment. Have you ever felt drawn to someone you couldn't explain? Someone who stirred something ancient inside of you? Desire, fear, admiration, even discomfort? That's not random. That's a soul encounter. And whether that person stayed or vanished, they came into your life to awaken you to something you were avoiding. Maybe that's why some women fear this video. Because when men begin to awaken, truly awaken, they no longer chase illusions. They no longer see women as saviors or destroyers, as prizes or threats. They begin to see them as mirrors. Mirrors that reveal not who the woman is, but who the man truly is underneath the armor. This is why Socrates was seen as dangerous, not because he had answers, but because he questioned the foundation of belief. He forced you to look at the walls of your mental prison and ask, who built this and why am I still here? So now I turn the question to you. What do you believe about women, about love, about your own heart? And are those beliefs helping you grow or keeping you small? Because the truth is not always comforting, but it is always liberating. And in the next part, we will step even deeper into this liberation. We will explore how feminine psychology, misunderstood and misrepresented for centuries, holds the key to a man's deepest transformation. We'll examine how men can transcend old patterns of control and dependency and finally see the feminine not as a threat or an ideal, but as a sacred force of evolution. But be warned, the next part is the one most people will never hear, and that's exactly why you must. There's a reason why the truth we're exploring is so often dismissed, mocked, or ignored. It threatens the very structure that keeps people asleep. When men begin to understand the true nature of the feminine and their unconscious relationship to it, the games no longer work. The manipulation collapses, the confusion fades, and in its place, something terrifying appears: clarity. But clarity is not comfortable. It means responsibility. You can no longer blame others for your wounds. You can no longer chase shadows hoping they'll become light, and you can no longer pretend that ignorance is innocence. In the myth of Psyche and Eros, the goddess Psyche is forbidden from looking at the face of her lover, Eros. She is told that love must remain blind. But one night, unable to endure the mystery any longer, she lights a lamp and gazes upon his sleeping face. And in that moment, everything changes. Eros awakens. He leaves. And Psyche is thrown into a long, painful journey to earn back what was lost. That myth is not just about romance. It's about the moment we choose to see, fully and completely, when we stop living in fantasy and dare to confront the truth. For men, that moment often comes when they realize that their relationships have been shaped not by presence and consciousness, but by projection and fear. Jung explained this through the anima, the inner feminine within the male psyche. If this anima remains unconscious, it dominates a man's perceptions. He seeks her outside, idealizes her, resents her when she disappoints him, and repeats the cycle endlessly. He doesn't love the real woman in front of him. He loves the idea she represents. But when the anima is brought into awareness, something radical happens. The man no longer needs to seek completion outside himself. He becomes whole, and only then can he love, not from need, but from truth. This is what Socrates hinted at through his dialogues, what Plato echoed, and what mystics across cultures have always known, that love, in its highest form, is a path to self-realization. But the path is narrow, and few walk it. Most settle for comfort, convenience, validation. They trade depth for safety. But safety is not love, it is familiarity. And familiarity is often the echo of old wounds. How many times have you stayed in something not because it was right, but because it was familiar? How many times have you confused being wanted with being seen? And how many times have you pursued someone hoping they'd heal the emptiness inside, only to discover that emptiness growing stronger? This is not weakness, it is human. But the time for pretending is over, because when men awaken, truly awaken, they start to notice what was always there, but never acknowledged. The feminine is not a puzzle to decode. It is a force, a field, an intelligence that operates through emotion, intuition, and presence. It cannot be controlled, only respected. And here's the part most will deny. Many women, consciously or unconsciously, test men to see if they can hold that force, not through logic but through energy, through chaos, through contradiction, not to hurt you, but to reveal you. Can you remain centered when she's storming? Can you hold space when she's unraveling? Can you see through the layers, not to fix her, but to love her more deeply? This is not easy. It requires strength of a different kind, not brute force, but emotional sovereignty. Not dominance, but depth. And most importantly, it requires a kind of presence that cannot be faked, because women, especially those connected to their feminine essence, feel everything. They know when you're hiding. They know when your smile is a mask. They know when you're present and when you're not. This is why the feminine can be terrifying for the unprepared man, because she sees through you, not to shame you, but to invite you into authenticity. In the ancient mystery schools, initiation wasn't just about knowledge. It was about death and rebirth. The ego had to die so the soul could emerge. And often this death came through a confrontation with the feminine, not the woman herself, but what she represents. The unknown, the emotional, the irrational, the intuitive, the transformative. Modern culture has forgotten this. It reduces women to roles, labels, stereotypes, and it reduces men to performers, always chasing, always proving, never resting. But rest is exactly what men need. Not physical rest, but psychological stillness. Stillness to listen. Stillness to feel. Stillness to witness the feminine without trying to fix or fear her. Only from that stillness can real connection begin. Socrates taught through questions, not because he lacked answers, but because he knew the answers meant nothing unless you found them within yourself. He wasn't trying to impress people. He was trying to free them. So here is a question worthy of your deepest attention. Are you living from reaction or from revelation? When a woman challenges you, do you shut down or lean in? When you feel inadequate, do you attack, withdraw, or reflect? When love feels distant, do you chase harder, or do you go inward? Every moment is a test, not from her, from life itself. And if you pass, not through perfection, but through presence, you step into a realm few ever experience. A realm where love is not about possession, but partnership, where intimacy is not about sex, but soul, where women are not objects of desire, but oracles of awakening. And when you reach that place, the game ends, the performance ends, the confusion ends. In its place, a new vision begins, a vision that redefines not just your relationships, but your very identity. And that vision, the one that men across time have feared and longed for, is what we will reveal in the next part. Because it is in the final stretch that we confront the ultimate truth, the truth most men never hear, the truth that once seen can never be unseen. And it is that truth which transforms not just how you relate to women, but how you relate to life itself. Everything up until now has been preparation, peeling away the layers of illusion, confronting the unconscious, dismantling the myths we inherited about love, women, and power. But now, we step into the truth that changes everything. Not the kind of truth that fits neatly into books or lectures, the kind of truth that whispers in your bones, the kind that either liberates you or breaks you. Socrates believed that the greatest wisdom was to know your own ignorance, that real strength was born not in asserting power over others, but in mastering yourself. And when it comes to the feminine, not just women, but the eternal feminine, this is the exact territory most men avoid. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men are not afraid of women. They're afraid of what women awaken in them. They're afraid of feeling vulnerable, of being seen, of being called to rise into their full presence. They're afraid of their own depth, because when you come face to face with a woman who sees you, truly sees you, there's nowhere left to hide. She doesn't care about your money, your achievements, your image. She feels your integrity. She senses your emptiness. She tests not to control you, but to call your soul forward. And if you cannot hold yourself, you cannot hold her. Now here is what many women will never say out loud, but every one of them feels. They are not waiting for perfect men. They are waiting for present men. Men who do not flinch in the face of emotion. Men who do not run when challenged. Men who do not collapse when intimacy becomes real. Because the deepest feminine longing is not to dominate or diminish a man, but to be met by one, to be felt, to be heard, to be seen, not as a role or an obligation, but as a living mystery. And here is the paradox. When a man tries to conquer a woman, he loses himself. When he meets her, he finds himself. The modern world has trained men to perform, to chase approval, to accumulate power, to pursue status. But none of that touches the soul, because power without presence is empty. Success without depth is hollow, and relationships without truth are prisons dressed up in pleasure. This is the moment where everything you thought you wanted is put to the test. Do you want control or connection? Do you want performance or presence? Do you want comfort or truth? Because truth will burn. It will destroy your illusions. It will take the version of you that plays small and rip him apart. But in the ashes of that false identity, a different man is born. One who no longer begs for love but embodies it. One who no longer needs to impress but inspires by simply being. One who doesn't just read philosophy, he lives it. That man is dangerous, not because he seeks power over others, but because he cannot be manipulated. He sees, he knows, he chooses from a place of awareness. And that's why women both long for him and fear his arrival. Because when such a man enters her life, he doesn't play games. He doesn't submit to the drama. He doesn't seek approval. He invites her gently, fiercely, fully, into truth. And the truth is this: the feminine does not want a slave. She wants a mirror that reflects her own divine chaos, her beauty, her rage, her passion, and holds it with unwavering presence. That presence cannot be faked. It comes from a man who has faced his own shadows, walked through his own pain, and emerged on the other side, not bitter, not broken, but whole. Such a man is rare, because such a man cannot be created by comfort. He is forged in fire, and now the choice is yours. You can forget what you've heard, return to the old ways, keep chasing validation, power, illusions, or you can begin the inner revolution, the one Socrates lived for, the one Jung mapped, the one women feel but rarely speak. It is the revolution of presence, not just in romance, but in every moment of your life. Can you be here, fully, when it matters most? When your partner is upset, when your child is afraid, when your dreams are crumbling, when your own heart breaks open, can you still stand, still breathe, still choose love over fear? This is the power that no woman can give you, and none can take away. It is the one thing men must reclaim for themselves, and that is the truth women hope you never discover, not because they fear your awakening, but because it changes everything. It changes how you see them, how you love them, how you honor them, and yourself. This is not the end. It's the beginning of a different life, a life rooted in truth, anchored in presence, free from illusion. Socrates didn't fear death because he had already died to illusion. He lived fully. He questioned deeply. He loved wisdom more than comfort. Now the question is yours to answer. Will you awaken or will you remain asleep, safe in your performance, untouched by the truth that calls you forward? Whatever you choose, just know this: the door to truth is always open, but only the brave ever walk through it, and now you know where it is. Thanks for looking.